So next up, we have a panel discussion titled Trans and Neurodivergent in the Swedish Healthcare System, moderated by Hannah Jackson with our speakers Ian Song and Maureen O'Neill. Hannah, who uses pronouns they, them, is an undergraduate student in gender studies and a part-time disability support worker. They're passionate about the rights of trans people, women's rights, disability rights, and especially those of individuals with intellectual disabilities. They also love learning about augmentative and alternative communication, new religious movements, and anything Judith Butler. Ian, who uses pronouns they, them, is an international student living in Copenhagen. They're interested in underground youth culture, and they have worked on building local queer communities in Beijing, Chongqing, and Copenhagen. Since they have struggled with decision-making towards gender-affirming surgery and autism diagnosis, a cozy space for all is what they dream of building. Maren, who uses pronouns they, them, or as we often call them, just Rin, is an Irish and American dual citizen living in Sweden. A few words that describe them are genderqueer, transgender, autistic, and ADHD. And a lyric that they like to share with us from a song that they like, called the Body Terror Song, reads as, "I'm so sorry that you have to have a body." So our panel discussion revolves around research, recent research that suggests that there is a great overlap between neurodivergence and trans identities. Both trans and neurodivergent individuals are forced to navigate a healthcare system that was not designed for them, relying on validation from medical professionals to gain access to the support they need. This panel will discuss trans and neurodivergent experiences of barriers in the Swedish healthcare system, what can be done, and how to improve it. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our speakers on stage.
Can you tell we were only on Zoom before? Can you tell we were only on Zoom before?
Yeah.
Physicality? What's physicality?
Just trying to get my computer going. Is that on? No. No sound? No sound? Maybe now?
No. No.
Hello? Hello? Is it working? Is it working now?
No.
No.
The light's on.
Hello? Hello? No, it's not working.
And then just grab another, yeah.
Yeah, regular.
Hello? Okay, it works. Okay, great. All right, let me just get my document going. Sorry. Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to this panel, Trans and Neurodivergent in the Swedish healthcare system. The reason we're having this panel today is because of the fact that there's such a large overlap between being neurodivergent and being trans and or non-binary, which shouldn't really be a problem. But however, over these past few years, we have seen an increase in skepticism towards this overlap. And neurodivergency, and especially autism, has been framed as a risk of coming to the wrong conclusions about one's own gender. So this is all part of a larger anti-trans moral panic, of course. But what sometimes is forgotten is that within this discourse, this is all part of a larger anti-trans moral panic, of course. But it's sometimes forgotten that this overlaps with the systemic ableism that has inhibited the modern healthcare system since the dawn of time. So that is why we today are putting this discussion where it rightfully belongs, which is in the hands of neurodivergent, trans, and non-binary people. And we've already been a bit introduced by Theo. But I also want to add that I have ADHD, so that is my part of the being neurodivergent community. I am also part of the board of Transhälsoplattformen. I am a substitute member, and I am currently writing my bachelor's thesis in gender studies, which is about this very topic, like ableism against autistic, trans, and non-binary people. So if I at some point say autism instead of neurodivergency, that is why. And I also just want to preface this with the fact that I sort of took on this role like very last minute, because the person who was supposed to be moderating this had to cancel. So if I lose track of myself, that is because I have ADHD and because I took on this last minute. So I have not had a lot of time to prepare. Anyways, today I'm here with two panelists. Maybe you would like to say something more about yourself. Like I said, Theo introduced you too a little bit, but anything else you want to add?
Hi, I'm Rin. I'm diagnosed ADHD, probably autistic. One of the things we're going to be talking about today is whether or not it's worthwhile to pursue an official diagnosis, knowing the sort of twice troublemaking existence of navigating healthcare while trans and neurodivergent. I have my master's in gender studies, and I'm hoping to do a PhD in gender studies.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Ian, and I am actually not diagnosed with anything, but I'm working towards it. But now I'm also putting a hold on it, because guess what? Getting a diagnosis on autism can actually be pretty obstacle for your future plans. We're going to talk about that later on. And I'm actually doing social data science, which is coding, but with social science. My currently project is about how we can use social media data to understand public attitude towards LGBTQ plus people in basically global south, and I'm using China as my case study. I am from China, and I'm actually living in Copenhagen, so yeah, why I'm here. Yeah, that's me, and I use they them pronoun. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. So first, everybody here today, I'm pretty sure knows what trans is. But maybe we should go ahead and define neurodivergency. Do you want to give your takes on it?
I feel like I want to define neurodivergency in opposition to neurotypicality. So most people are allistic or neurotypical, and people who are not allistic are neurodivergent. It is often used as a synonym for autism and ADHD only, for which this panel will unfortunately be doing nothing to combat that, just because that's who we happen to be. But it does also include sort of a whole host of other different sort of brain characteristics that are often classified as learning disorders or things like that, but are not necessarily conditions or diseases in a negative way.
Yeah, I think for me it's really important that we understand neurodivergent as a spectrum, not like in a binary way, because it's also like feeling like trans identity. You don't have to choose being neurotypical or else. It's like there are a lot of or else. I genuinely think like the people who is very, very neurotypical is actually a very small amount of people.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right. So yeah,
Might just be the people I know though. Like calls to like.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, this is also the part where I realized that I don't actually have a lot of cishet friends.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, so it's like we attract each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. It's like what Jojo said.
Yes.
Yeah, so for me, I think what is important is it's not just about one identity or your identity. I think it's a way of thinking about human being itself, like understanding how actually different we are. Because this one thing I was really, I feel like something I wanted to bring on is when I feel like I'm autistic and I wanted to get a diagnosis, and I talked to my parents about how my feelings during the whole puberty, or how I was in schools, and they are like, but honey, we feel that also when we're young. You just have to keep it. And I know you feel like you're different from other people, but we feel the same. It's
Yeah.
like you can never be enough for them. And I was like, Mom and Dad, have you ever thought about maybe you are like autistic too?
Exactly, exactly.
So I was actually feeling that we have to understand this thing in a more spectrum way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
I was getting ready, so I've only lived here in Sweden for a year, and when I was getting ready to move here, I had bought a couple books online, like tourism books about Sweden, and one of the books I picked up was also about autism and had autism right in the title, and it was sort of in the pile of stuff that I was getting ready to pack in my suitcase. My dad was helping me pack, and he had a really unexpected, strong, negative reaction to just seeing the title of that book. Not a conversation I was having with him, not me like telling him that I'd been thinking that this was, an accurate label for me for years. And to me, it just sort of is the idea that for a certain part of the neurotypical community, autism still has a really strong negative connotation.
Yeah.
For sure, it's very stigmatized.
Definitely, and it doesn't have the nuance of the idea of a spectrum, the idea of highs and lows on different days. But I definitely know that sort of growing up, I would express frustration to my mom about different things I was having a hard time with. And she almost definitely has ADHD as well. And so, yes, it was completely the reaction of, oh no, everyone feels that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, because we are the same.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and then that's the thing also with me thinking about autism is, that's my father in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, right, I can look so directly at the two of them and be like, well, of course this is how this worked out.
Okay. So thank you. Do we want to start talking a little bit about the overlap between the
Yeah,
trans and neurodivergent community?
Definitely.
Awesome. I know you talked a little bit to Fabienne, who was originally supposed to host this, about somebody else having to like validate your identity through diagnosis, and that is something that overlaps between both being trans and neurodivergent, and that this can constitute a barrier to treatments. Would you like to share a little bit about how you resonated regarding this?
No. I think the thing is, it almost feels like it's not important about how you feel. It's what is important is how the institution feels.
Yeah.
And the institution have different criteria in different places. So actually, that is very hard to navigate. So suddenly, in one place, I am, and in another place, I am not, and then I am, then you're not sure about me. I feel like it's so constantly changing, and it's not good for you.
Yeah.
Because it is not just a diagnosis about how the system are going to provide you care, or in another way, I don't know, teach you how to behave. And sometimes I think it's also about me as a person, because I am a whole, like my life continues.
Yeah.
I used to come from places and I went to other places, and in this different treatment you got, you actually feels like I am someone to be picked, or I am someone to be defined, and that's not really a very good feeling. And I think it goes both with neurodivergent and trans, because like back in China, we only have like if you are trans, then you must, if you are like biologically woman, female,
Assigned female at birth. Yeah.
you have to be like if you are like assigned female at birth, you have to be like present in a way that's super masculine. You have to go beyond masculine. You have to be like, oh, I want to be a man. And then the doctor can be like, I can prescribe you things that you would like. And I think in Sweden and also Denmark, I think it's more, not that much, but still you have to present in a certain way.
Yeah, I would definitely say that similar to how I've seen and participated in a lot of conversations with trans people about the way we need to act and present in a doctor's office in order to access the care we need, because they're the gatekeepers. It's the same with neurodivergencies. Because, part of the conversation we had before was being told, oh no, you can't be insert any diagnosis here, you make too much eye contact. You pay rent on your apartment.
You're high functioning.
You're too high functioning.
Too high functioning.
And so it's almost this, I feel like it's similar with trans issues of like, well, you've been coping, right? You don't look like your life is falling apart. You don't have horrifyingly traumatic experiences in your recent past where you haven't been able to keep your home, keep your job, feed yourself, take care of yourself. You haven't been able to maintain good mental health. All of these things seem to be something that the healthcare system looks at and goes, oh, okay, then you must be. But only because we've seen these horrible things that have happened to you.
Exactly.
If you look on the outside like you're coping, that can't be what's going on. Maybe you just spent too much time on TikTok. And like, I know that Ian and I both have the experience of being immigrants, and it is definitely really difficult to navigate different systems when different places have different criteria. I know that I came here to Sweden with my ADHD diagnosis, with my paperwork, and still experienced skepticism from medical providers because, oh, America diagnoses a lot of ADHD. Something we were talking about was part of the reason that I'm not pursuing an official autism diagnosis is you cannot immigrate to certain countries if you are officially diagnosed with autism. And these countries include Australia and Canada. So not necessarily places you would expect that kind of institutional ableism from in that way. But also, as an adult with autism, like what would the benefit be?
Exactly. They can't help you, but they will reject you.
Yes,
Yeah.
they will reject you, they will invalidate you. A lot of the resources that exist for adults seem to only exist for a very specific
Kind of
presentation
adult,
of autism that was diagnosed in childhood and for whom the parents of this autistic adult would like them to still continue to receive that particular type of therapy. There aren't really resources to help us navigate a neurotypical world with brains that don't quite process things the same way. And the difficulty then with all of this is one of the things we talked about was, the bureaucracy of the Swedish healthcare system.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people know this about, how difficult it is to access trans healthcare. All of the documents you have to get, all of the appointments you have to go to, all of the sort of boxes you have to check. It's really hard to navigate for anyone. But then if you add in executive functioning issues, all of a sudden, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
Impossible.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can never finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm realizing we don't have a lot of time, and I have so many questions.
No, we could really talk
It's such
about
an
this
important topic. But yeah, another area where like being neurodivergent really comes into play is when you're attempting to seek a diagnosis for gender dysphoria or gender incongruence. And a lot of people are essentially told, you're not trans, you're just autistic. Have you experienced anything along those lines where, or maybe like had your dysphoria evaluations been delayed due to being both trans and neurodivergent? Or maybe you know people who have experienced this?
I know for me, when I first met with the trans health coordinator in Vanland, and we sat down and we're talking about, how long have I been feeling this way and everything. It was a really good conversation until we got to the topic of what medical transition-related care I would potentially be interested in. And I brought up top surgery. And I said that, I know that top surgery is something I really want to do because I also experience a lot of sensory issues around my chest. And the reaction I got was suddenly skeptical, and was this idea of something, I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was something along the lines of, well, I would want someone to take a look at that because this is about trans issues, not sensory issues. And kind of like Ian was saying, I'm one person. You can't pick those two apart and treat them in different offices.
Exactly.
Because it's all so intertwined.
Yeah.
But I also know that I have a very sort of autistic or neurodivergent concept of gender.
Yeah, me too, actually.
There are a lot of people who identify with
Neuroqueer?
the term
Yeah.
neuroqueer.
Neuroqueer.
And for me, it has to do with the fact that anytime people have talked about gender, I sort of know what they're talking about with regards to their internal experiences, but that might not necessarily be how I feel. But for me, it's a lot of work to figure out what I'm feeling even when it comes to basic human feelings like hunger and thirst, then to try and pick apart my own internal concept of gender is a lot more difficult than I really expected it to be. And I think so much of that is the neurodivergence as I attempt to sort of unmask through the process.
Yeah, I also strongly identify with neuroqueer because I think autism is like, guys, it's about your fucking brain. Your brain is different. Like, how can you even process gender as a concept as everybody else? I don't think it's possible. I remember, like, when I was a kid, I feel like I'm more like a bicycle, like a human being. I have always, like, like when I was I think it's high school, and my mom let me pick from a actual smart cell phone and a bicycle. And I was like, I would go with the bicycle. So I went with Nokia, like with keyboard that you can only get telephone from other people. I went from that for 3 more years just because I want a bicycle. Why? Because I feel like I'm a bicycle. So so I think it definitely have intertwined with identity. But I think what I don't like is it's a how we see ourselves issue. It's not some excuse you can say at the doctor's office and like, no, this actually we can't talk about this to you because we need another profession. And,
it's really the only term I can come up with right now is siloed. Everything's very separate. And I know that this is also something that happens a lot in research, is that because you want your data to be clear and you want to know what you're talking about, you try to really limit the number of variables. But when you yourself as a person are both trans and neurodivergent, you can't limit those. I can't go into one office and just be a trans person, then go into another office and just be neurodivergent. And so the fact that these medical professionals we're sitting with are not educated on both topics means that I'm misgendered when I go to try and get supports for ADHD and work with a coach, work with an occupational therapist. And then I also experience ableism when I'm sitting in the office to talk about transition-related care because they don't understand the executive functioning elements.
Have you encountered? No, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Have you encountered like healthcare professionals who have been able to see you as a whole, as somebody who is both trans and neurodivergent? No.
No, I don't think.
Yeah, that's the dream.
And I think sometimes I don't really blame them in a lot of ways because I think it's just lack of experience. It's actually very hard for a person that's not trans and neurotypical to understand what you are going through. I mean, it's understandable, but sometimes you still feel hurt because at the moment you are vulnerable and you feel like this person is supposed to help me, but no.
Well, and we talked about, like, this is, I think, so much of the need for own voices to be involved in influencing policy and influencing these types of decisions, involved even in education. Like, it would be great if some of these medical practices actually brought in trans educators to teach about trans issues, brought in neurodivergent educators to teach about neurodivergent issues. Because, right, I can't blame them for not knowing, but also they should know.
Yeah, and my feeling matters because I'm the patient, I'm the person that you're supposed to help, right?
Yeah.
And I also, like, I would very much put money on the fact that I'm not, when I'm, in the office for trans reasons, that I'm not the first neurodivergent trans person.
No, for
that
sure
they've
not.
met. So why have they not pursued finding out more about this overlap and actually learned more about the population that they're supposed to be serving? And I think that's really where I don't have a very kind concept of the medical profession in this way, because I don't think they think of themselves as serving us. I think they think of themselves as treating us.
Or rescuing you.
Definitely.
Maybe, yeah.
And so, and I think this is one of the places where neurodivergency and being transgender do really overlap. It's this idea that it's something that needs to be treated because it's a condition. It's very medicalized. It's very
Pathologized,
very pathologized, and but pathologized also through a very ableist lens, like this concept that if we just help you, if we just rescue you with this and this and this, then everything will be all better. And so,
And all better for who?
right, well, right, easier for the cishet neurotypical person to conceptualize.
Yeah.
And I know, like, what they're
not better
telling
for
me
us.
is not actually better for me because
Yeah.
I feel okay about myself.
Right.
it's actually you feeling
Yeah.
not okay about me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So sometimes you will actually have this question about what is the medical system actually treating me for?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of figure do you want me to become? And do we have the same goal even?
I don't think, I really don't think we do have the same goals. And I think that it's, I wish we did. I wish it was something that we could work more in partnership with them and actually, right, be working towards the same thing. Because it is very hard to sort of sit in a doctor's office and explain, oh, I'm comfortable with X, Y, and Z, but not A, B, and C. And this is something I know I've talked to a lot of non-binary people about, where the healthcare system doesn't quite know what to do if you're not interested in transitioning exactly the way that they expected you to want to transition.
Yeah, very rigid for sure.
Very rigid.
Yeah. I don't think either of you mentioned the word infantilizing now, but that was the word that came to my mind during like this part of the conversation. Like, have you experienced like any treatment from healthcare professionals that you would describe as like infantilizing that you would like to get a little bit more into and explain?
Yeah, 2 days ago.
Okay.
So again, I like I said, I only just moved here. So I just started with the new Vod Central, and I just got in with a psychologist to talk about a whole bunch of things. But we were talking about trans-related things. And I mentioned that I did want to get on the waiting list because I know it's a long list. And that I had some ideas about what medical care I might be looking for, but I would want to have a conversation. And immediately, even though the rest of this conversation had gone really positively, the psychologist goes, well, it's irreversible. Bro, I'm 32. We just had a whole conversation about how many degrees I got because I'm terrified of working in business.
In gender studies as well.
Yes, but also, I sit in front of you, I'm at the very least an adult. What do you mean it's irreversible? Why do you think you're telling me new information? Why do they insist on this more educated than thou, holier than thou perspective where they're practically preaching from on high to us lower beings who have no idea what's going on? Like, yeah, okay, I understand that top surgery would be irreversible in that way. Thank you.
No shit.
Right? This was actually not the coconut tree I fell on. But I think we get twice infantilized in that way, and I think that this is something that I know I experience as someone who was assigned female at birth is this idea of the coercive experience of we need to save our autistic girls because they've just been gently brainwashed into thinking that they're not girls.
And it's very much about girls, right? I think sometimes I don't know why they get offensive about how I'm gonna treat my body because I'm cutting my boob, not yours.
Yeah.
I definitely can't speak to what autistic boys and men are experiencing because I can't imagine it's gonna be easy for them. Or people who are assuming that their child is an autistic boy. But I think that it is something, right, that threatens people. I think people have a concept of gender, they have a concept of neurology that when people are outside of that, it messes with their worldview and they're not comfortable with that. It's not a fun way for them to have their worldview messed with, right? A different culture, fantastic. Gay pride parade with drag queens, awesome. But wait, you want to change your body? What does that mean for me? And you're like, well, this has nothing to do with you. But they don't, that's not how they see it. So.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I feel like sometimes in the media, especially like for books and articles, they really want to talk about girls as if you are gender assigned as birth is female, then you are much more easier to be conveyed into this transgender code that you can't really define things for yourself. And I think that's also infantilization.
Yeah.
And if you have all of these identity overlaps, congratulations, you hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
So sometimes you feel like, and also for myself, I sort of being told that I looked much younger than what actually am. And I think it also came into play that when they see a teenager that don't know what they are doing, but you're like, but no, I'm not a teenager, but they still treat you that way. So I don't know.
We're not allowed to be the expert on our own experiences in so many ways, and I think that's something a lot of people can resonate with about
Yeah.
being trans in a healthcare setting is they don't seem like they listen to you and they seem to write some things down, but I don't know if they're really hearing you. I don't know if they're really trusting what you're saying, which is so difficult because I feel like as a trans person attempting to gain transition-related healthcare, you're almost expected to play a role. You're almost expected to follow a script that isn't maybe authentic.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's very similar for being neurodivergent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's so unfair because I worked as a medical social worker before, and also is my experience is that if you have these issues, you will put as much time as you have to train yourself as an expert. You look into papers, you read all of this stuff, you see all this recent development, and when the point you are entering the doctor's office, no, suddenly none of the things you know matters.
Well, sometimes it backfires, right? And this is
Yeah,
something that
I
I've heard from
agree.
people who are disabled and in the chronic illness community is sometimes when you come in and you know too much about your condition, all of a sudden they start diagnosing you with an incredibly rare psychological condition where you're essentially just faking it
Yeah.
for attention,
Yeah.
which I think we can thank TV shows like House and Grey's Anatomy for popularizing that because
Yeah.
Munchausen's does not actually show up anywhere near as often as in those shows.
Yeah.
Right? Just because I've read the literature on my own diagnosis doesn't mean that I'm doing this for attention. It means that I keep finding medical professionals who are supposed to be experts in this who don't know what's going on
Exactly.
and aren't up to date on the literature. So I have to be my own advocate.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, if you show up as your own advocate, like I know when I was in the States and I was speaking with an endocrinologist about potentially going on testosterone, I have a thyroid condition. So I was talking to her to find out how that might impact things. And I mentioned that I was interested in also going on finasteride because I didn't want to have testosterone change my body at quite the speed that you would necessarily see if you were taking a regular dose. And obviously I know doses are different per person, but she said something about like, oh, well, it's not that fast, so I don't really do that. And I'm like, okay, why are we talking about you? So.
Yeah, I think one of you mentioned bureaucracy at some point, and I know that an obstacle that seemed to affect a lot of neurodivergents, like in particular when they're seeking, for example, gender-affirming healthcare, is the sheer amount of bureaucracy and like all these forms you have to fill out, like with very intrusive and sometimes like very out of place questions, like how do you feel about your hands, like. And I know people who have said, like, told me, like, I did not have any issues with my hands until I was asked that question. And then that got, like, the wheels going in their head. But anyways, like, along with the fact that you always have to be alert, and I think you said something about, like, saying the right things,
Yeah.
Rin. Like, what have your experiences of navigating, like, the bureaucracy of healthcare systems been like?
I know we don't have enough time for honestly, even for all of this conversation, but for my rant about bureaucracy on this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely tough to navigate as a neurodivergent person. The executive functioning is something I really struggle with, and this is just sort of the managing of everyday life tasks, but also the managing of yourself as a human being.
Yeah.
I saw something very funny online that was talking about how some people in this world get assistants, and I just get one jackass with ADHD who doesn't know what they're doing. And so it is tough to sort of figure out, okay, am I doing everything in the right order? Am I signing up? Have I gotten in touch with the right people to get on the proverbial waiting list early enough? Or did I do something that I thought was an initial appointment, but actually because I didn't fill something out or nobody put this in the journal in the right way, I'm not doing X, Y, and Z, and now I have to wait longer. It can be really hard to find out and really tough to navigate when you don't quite understand how everything works from that perspective.
Yeah, and for me, I think the idea of you can quit if you can't complete all of this, you can quit and you can miss things and you can fail and it's okay, we can start again. I think that kind of mindset actually means a lot to me because also I sometimes feel like, why can't everybody else do it? Why can't you do it? And yes, I know, like my brain is differently shaped, but still you have this feeling about why can't you do it?
Yeah.
So for me it's important to keep to notify myself that it is okay if we don't complete this in time. And also, I think it's also sometimes you can use new technology. I was trying this right now just to make ChatGPT my personal assistant to help me sort of organize things because
I've seen that as well. It breaks down tasks into little pieces as well. I've heard. Yeah.
That's actually quite kind of helpful because sometimes I feel like I don't have the energy to put everything down on paper. Like it have a range in my brain and I know how to do it, but sometimes I just don't have the energy to do it. And you can just talk to ChatGPT because I think talk is much easier than writing down things for me at least. And you can do this in a conversation, and in the end you will get like a timetable or thing. It's not perfect, but it's progress. So sometimes only small things take you to get a long bureaucracy of forms and everything.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because we've talked about I've talked with people in my life about not wanting to use AI for a variety of reasons, but when it is the only support that you can kind of find that's actually helping, because you don't qualify for assistance under certain definitions that that might be provided to you, it is helpful to have at least something that's helping you.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. We only have 5 minutes left.
Oh no. Okay.
A minute too.
Okay, if we're gonna try to end this on a little bit more of a positive note, if you could imagine a healthcare system that truly caters to individual needs, including those of neurodivergent and like trans and non-binary people, what would it look like?
Well, starting with less forms.
Yeah, fewer forms for sure, and also less performative trauma.
Exactly.
Don't make me sit in front of you at every appointment, start from birth, and just recount every exhausting experience I've ever had through the lens of gender and neurodivergence. But yeah, I think for me, it's really the idea of working in concert with your healthcare providers, working as a partnership. Yeah. That's the goal, right? The goal is not that they're going to treat you and then send you away. I don't want to just be like a file that they process. Yeah. And I think that the reason that mindset can come about is they're so overwhelmed. They have so many patients. The system is not working for us. It might be working as designed, but it's not working for us. And so if there were more healthcare providers, if they had been better educated, if they had time in their schedules to actually keep up on the journals and keep up on furthering education and sit down and have longer appointments with us to find out what we actually need and what we actually want, and then be able to pursue those goals, that would be something, I think, amazing.
Yeah.
And for me, I think it's a start, but I think sometimes maybe you ask one doctor to do all of these tasks is too overwhelming for them. So yeah, we are the social workers. We can just be together in a round table. If I have neurodivergent issues, trans issues, you can't just have one professional, two professional, a social worker, and me. We can talk, and I don't have to be the one who are supposed to catering your need and also giving your information that you like, and sometimes be what you want me to be because maybe it's because I worked as a social worker before, so I feel like they are better trained in understand what the patients or us want than the medical professions. So yeah, maybe just to bring people together would be a good idea, but it's also about the timetable and stuff. So.
Well, and I think there is some precedent for that in the medical community. Unfortunately, the only example that comes to mind is kind of depressing, but I've had family members with cancer. And so, they do have meetings with their entire team where everyone comes together. And there's a social worker there, and the social worker is there to facilitate between you, the patient, the client, and your care team. And it's your care team. They're here for you. They're taking care of you. They work for you. And so it would be really wonderful to have that, to use the medical parlance, the patient-centered experience, where we as an individual, we as a trans person are having these experts work for us and do what we need for our best lives, but that everyone is together, and so you don't have to follow up constantly and be like, hey, doctor's office number 1, did you send that paperwork to doctor's office number 2? Because I called doctor's office number 2 and they said you didn't. Oh, you said you did? Great, which one of you is lying?
Yeah.
And also, why do I need to now play follow up and run around after everyone when
Hi.
you told me you
Can
did
you hear me?
something and then you didn't, and then this other office said as long as they got that paperwork, everything would be fine, and no one did anything. So it'd
Yeah.
be great if there was less of that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. If they could communicate with each other, like, yeah. So, okay, the last question, like really quick. What is the best part about being trans and neurodivergent at the same time?
Being able to be a bicycle. It's my own choice, people. I like bicycle.
So I identify with the term genderqueer for political reasons. I like the idea of my gender freaking out the boring cisheads. And so I think my own neurodivergence sort of ties into that as well. I enjoy being my authentic self, despite the fact that that's not something that fits well into society's concept of what an adult looks like in that way. I really should have worn my dinosaur overalls today. That was just my poor planning. So.
Yeah, I think essentially it's just the feeling of freedom. Like, you can never be what they want you to be. So, like,
You have
be
to be
whatever you
You
want.
have to be yourself, right? Because you know you're not fitting into that box already,
Yeah.
so you might as well do it to the fullest extent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The other best part of it is meeting people like this who
Yeah.
have the
Having
experience
this
as
kind of
well.
forum.
It's validating in the best way, and it's also just really fulfilling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So really, thank you, everybody.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.